They back, y'all. Here we go. Here we go. Here go the next round of festivities. Boy, I tell you. And they love this little corner right here. I can't tell you how many times they done dug up this little corner. Wow, look at that. Wow. Oh, okay. Look at that. Well, I don't know what this got to do with flooding, but you know, they just keep it moving on right on around. Wow. I came back inside and I initially was going to compile the footage over the last 2 years of what the construction looks like every single year when they come out here and start digging up the street and digging up the walkways to install more infrastructure. But I decided against that. And if people want to see that footage, it's all over the YouTube channel. Back in the earlier days, so you would have to filter from the oldest dates to get to it more quickly. But I decided instead to try to look up whatever documents are available relative to the contract work that's being done, because you know, one of the trucks clearly has a placard on the side of it indicating that they're contract workers, and so that kind of triggered my mind. I'm like, oh, you know what, I need to go look and see if I can't piece through this to put some other pieces together, maybe something related to the casino groundbreaking. Just the timing is, you know, is always significant, and so I wanted to try to see if I could pull together some things, and maybe I will. But I stopped when I understood that these are franchising agreements, and that would make sense. That would make sense for why every single year someone else is out here doing some form of upgrade to the infrastructure, because Cox Communications initially laid all of the cable lines, you know, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, which was a big deal for everybody. But of course, it restricted access to cable for people who were not within their service area. So everybody wanted it. So people started saying, well, we want cable in our area too. And so, you know, so they were able. So, you know, pretty much Cox laid all of the initial cable work in the city of Norfolk. In Hampton Roads, you know, I would speculate, but I'm just going to stay focused on Norfolk because it gets too big when I'm doing this kind of research. So essentially what these documents reveal is that the city will grant a franchise license to these companies to do the work, to install the stuff, to put it in, but then they give them an amount of time that they can launch it. So 5 years is the case for this particular grant. And after that it becomes, I mean, it becomes the property of the city as soon as they put it in. I mean, it's in the city, it's in the ground of the city. So, but they give them full control over it for a certain period of time, and then it becomes the city's, and then the city can do whatever they want with it. They can take, the work that they've done and then franchise it to somebody else to use the same lines, which makes sense because that's what happened. Once Cox laid all the lines, then the next thing you know, all of the other providers started also providing their services using those same cable lines. But the issue is that, well, there are two issues. One is that in making these legal agreements, they don't consider the rights of the citizens. That's not a big part of the things that the attorneys that they contract with to do these negotiations and to draft these agreements. It's more about, what the corporate legalities would be if one entity decided to sue another because, for example, they had or licensed a franchise to someone before their license expired, meaning that now I have to compete on my own lines to make profit with somebody else who you've also given a franchise using the same equipment that I installed. So that's the second issue is, how companies or business owners move in this process because it's a risk for them. The city is saying, the trade-off for them is they can make their money back and probably more money over the course of the time of the license. And so that's the justification for, them being okay with the city taking control of all the equipment and everything else that they put in the ground. If it's in the ground, once they put it in, it belongs to the city. But they should be able to, they give them the license for a period of time that would allow them to be reimbursed for any expenses that they had to do the work and then to make a profit. And then that's it. And then we own it. It's ours. You can't, it belongs to the city. So, just sort of how they move through that, because I would assume that this is where the relationship aspect of business comes in because, Cox Communications essentially has a monopoly over cable in this area. And they have for a very long time. But what I imagine based on the information that I pull is that the city decided, well, we're going to let other people come in and put their own franchises on this stuff. And we're going to do it in a way that you won't have an opportunity to dispute it. So as a result, we've had to deal with these ridiculous upgrades every year for cable systems that we really do not, or telecommunication systems, which, that's a whole nother issue. I really don't feel like going through all of the legalities of it. If this becomes a huge issue in any lawsuit that I want to file, I will, based on what comes back in discovery. But right today, the day after my daughter's birthday, I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading through all of this code because I have the gist of what I needed to at least have a better understanding of why it is every single year they're out here doing. And it's not just little adjustments. They dig up the street, the entire street and corners and all of that every single year that they come out here. And I'm like, it's so much damage to the roadway to do all these infrastructure upgrades. If it was about the city doing something that would improve the quality of utility services for the people who live in this subdivision of Ingleside, then the Army Corps of Engineers, when they came out here, would have been able to identify that. And then they could have done all of that stuff, continuously across the time span since that happened back in 2017, 2018. But that's not what happens. It's like there's all this activity at certain times, which is why I believe that timing is important in trying to figure out what's going on. And then there's nothing. They don't do anything. Nothing else happens. There's obviously been no improvement to our water quality. There's no improvement to our air quality. There hasn't been any improvement relative to how we receive services in our home. And I know the same is true for anybody who lives in this subdivision back here. So, it doesn't have anything to do, all this tearing up the entire street has nothing to do with improving the quality of life and how utility services are received in this subdivision. Now, they probably have done work in other subdivisions of this neighborhood as well, but I don't live there and I'm in the house most of the time. But I know that every single year they're back here in Riverview. So anyway, I just wanted to share this information with with you all because I have been talking this week about prophetic malaise, and I've also been talking about the legal system and how challenging it has been for me to try to help people to understand what their rights are, and that it is always the right thing, the right decision to do the right thing, because legally you will be able to justify your actions. And what this looks like in a larger citywide scale, because none of the things in these documents that I'm sharing with you all indicate that the citizens and what they want and what they need are being considered in the drafting of any of these proposals and these grants and in these licenses. It doesn't have it. We don't need any more infrastructure. You know, if there's any problems with speed and those kinds of things, that is a result of throttling of the broadband. That's why they went from just a general service rate to you being able to buy certain amounts of data every month to be able to compensate for your usage. You know, it's another way to make money. So there's nothing wrong with 300 and something odd cell towers providing wireless and all of this cable infrastructure that's already been installed. There shouldn't be any issues with speed. So that's the only reason that people typically will, at this point in 2024, will be asking for fiber or, you know, a higher quality infrastructure. It's speed, whether or not, you know, I can watch my stuff without buffering and things like that. That doesn't have anything to do with the infrastructure. That is all about throttling. And if you don't know what throttling means, I suggest you look it up, because it is a thing. That's how they make money with these packages. So anyway, I'm just gonna sit here and sort of try to process all of this. I'm really tired, y'all. I think that I've made it super duper clear. You know, usually this time of the year is my favorite time of the year, right? The date starting with Deja's birthday through January the 2nd has always been my favorite time of year. And I'm not feeling it this year. I don't want to cook this year. I don't want to put up a tree because I really don't feel like I have anything to celebrate, especially given today, the day after her birthday, when the season would start for me. They're out here tearing up the street again.